Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. I am James Jones, and I'm using my radio voice to introduce my co-hosts, Mr. Greg Leahy.
Ahoy, hoy, everyone.
Mr. Guillaume Vayette.
Good evening.
And the returning Mr. John Lindeman.
Great to be back, James.
It is episode 904, and today is December 5th, 2024. This year is almost over. And because this year is almost over, it's important for me to remind you that our retroactive for Professor Layton and the Curious Village will be recorded probably in 2 to 3 weeks on our side. We're going to try to record it during the holidays so we can just kind of release it. We don't have to necessarily record multiple episodes during the holidays. So we'll probably record 2 shorter episodes in 1 week. One of them will be the episode we released that week, and one of them will be the retroactive. But just your reminder, we'll do one at the end of the show as well. That's how we do it. Just get you going. Doesn't take very long to play this game. Doesn't. I think it's like 9 hours. I think you can probably get through it. So, get started. I'm getting started literally tomorrow. I have it downloaded now. I just should have done it today.
Yeah, I've started playing a little tiny bit, worked through the first couple puzzles. So,
I instead took a nap when I got home because I was tired. I was a tired boy, sleepy boy. I only asked John what his new business was, but I'm not going to start with John because it's not Nintendo related. And I tried to do Nintendo related stuff. Does anybody here have Nintendo related new business?
Sure.
Okay. Is it by any chance Donkey Kong Land 3, which came out?
No, it's not.
Okay, good. Because I was going to say my condolences because mine, I did play that and it fucking sucks.
Yeah, I can do nothing recent or relevant.
Good.
Or I can do something recent-ish, relevant-ish, but that I didn't play on Switch. What do you want?
I like that it's a mystery box. To going back to our conversation last week, it could even be a boat.
I could really go over this very quickly. Basically, because of the Tetris Forever collection.
Yes.
But because I'm cheap and I like to wait for at least the first sale, I'm like, well, I do have old Tetris games in my collection that I haven't really played. So I went back to Tetris Party on the Wii. Remember Tetris Party?
Oh, no.
It was made by Nintendo. It was all meant to, like it uses your Mii. It was online, supposedly. I haven't found evidence of that. That it worked well or anything. It certainly doesn't work now. I did try to play this with like couch multiplayer last year at some point when the mother-in-law was visiting, but it was not as enticing as Dr. Mario 64 apparently. So we didn't stick with it. So I tried to play it solo because I saw that there was a bunch of modes that could have been interesting. I forget exactly what they're called now, but there's like a mode where instead of trying to complete lines, you're trying to just like build a structure where like a little person that's just running back and forth on your Tetris pieces. You try it first not to crush them, and second you're trying to make to allow them to climb up by one unit increments. They can't climb up like the side of an L, for instance, but like you got to place your pieces so that they can climb up. And like you're trying to make them reach little flags, like little goals, and there can be multiple goals in a stage. And you can still, if you screw up, if you cover one of those goals with a piece, well, you can always, clear some lines and kind of, you're kind of undoing some of the progress that you've been making. But then at that point, you don't really have a choice. Like, so you can still clear lines, but it doesn't do anything outside of maybe get you out of trouble. It seemed like a good idea on paper. Like, okay, like they're trying to do something different with this formula, but ultimately it's more difficult than it looks. Because I don't know, maybe just because I'm not very good at it. And as a result of it being more difficult than it looked, it takes kind of forever to complete a stage, and so it was a little bit boring. So yeah, I didn't love that. And another thing that I didn't love is I guess I forgot how mushy the D-pad on the Wii Remote is, which is not good.
Oh, yeah.
It's not good when if you press down, it just sends your piece directly to the bottom. It leads to all sorts of little problems like that. Like, oh, whoops, okay, the block slipped, and now I didn't jam it exactly where I wanted to, and now I can complete that line. So yeah, it ultimately, like, it just made me think, like, okay, next trip to Peterborough, when I go to my favorite used game store, I think I'm going to sell it back to them because I'm not really enjoying this. Also, this Tetris Party game has a bombless version in it, and it's funny because I was listening to a podcast where they were just complaining about how, like, the documentary part of Tetris Forever, really good. The game selection, lacking because, of course, like, there's the glaring absence of NES Tetris and Tengen Tetris on there. Which, of course, NES Tetris is now coming to NSO. If it's not there already, I haven't really paid attention.
I don't think it is quite yet.
Okay, so we're getting that on the NSO service. But yeah, and they were complaining that like half the games seem to be some version of bombless, which apparently was a big deal in Japan, but less so here. So that was my Wii adventures. And then another thing very quickly that I played, Don't Sleep on Alien Storm on the Genesis NSO. Very dumb game. So at first I posted on social media about it. I called it Alien Syndrome because I get those names confused because what was Sega thinking? Alien Syndrome, Soldier, Storm, like they really cornered that part of the alphabetical games list. But yeah, Alien Storm is a 2-player beat 'em up, basically, except that your characters, the woman, the guy, or the robot, have like zap guns or fire flamethrowers, and you're fighting a very corny, alien invasion, and I just loved the little interstitial scenes in between stages because it's just so stupid. I posted one on Blue Sky, but like you see like the alien, like some kid running out of a house being chased by some goofy alien monster, while there are like little green monsters like up on the walls, just like gnawing at them. It's very, very silly. And so Karen and I used a cheat code to get as many credits as we could, because towards the end the game gets really, really cheap. So we cheated and we got some extra credits and we saw the ending. And I gotta say, watching the credits, absolutely worth it. So do spend, half an hour of your time with a buddy, maybe going through the game and then watching the credits. It's wild. Or you look at it on YouTube, I guess.
Now I need to know.
It's very dumb.
Great. I love it.
And so my third and probably more substantial game that I played is Inscryption, which is So this game came out recently on Game Pass. That's where I played it. I can't imagine that it struggles too much on Switch, so I'm gonna just go ahead and say it's probably a fine.
My understanding is it's fine.
Yeah, good. So I heard a lot about this game before playing it. I think I forget if it came out last year, probably last year. Anyway, so it's been a while. I listened to Raymap Radio, and that podcast has their cards game guy, and but Inscryption is kind of like a different type of trading card game, and so everyone was kind of into it, and so I heard a lot of praise about it, and I'm not super into card games, but once it showed up on Game Pass, I was like, hey, I don't have an excuse really to not at least check it out. And yeah, like it's an interesting game. I'm still not super into card games, but this was interesting and pretty fun. So the premise is that first of all, that you start a game and there's like, like it loads up as if it were loading up from like a diskette on an old PC, like it shows you the progression of the percentage of like loading into memory or whatever. And then there's like some sort of there are diskette reading sounds and everything, but then there's some sort of glitch happening, and then you get into the opening menu, and it's like this kind of 8-bit 16-bit affair, but you notice that the new game option is grayed out. You can't choose it, and the continue is the only thing you can do. So you continue, and then, more glitching, and you don't end up playing, an old school PC game. What happens is that you seem to be facing some weird creature in a dimly lit cabin in the woods, presumably. You can't see outside. There are no windows, but there's like a storm outside. The door, like, you can't escape. The door is locked. Actually, you don't know that quite yet. I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping the gun here. You're just like, you're sitting at a table, and there's like this really creepy pair of glowing eyes across the table. And they have you play a game with them. And so they kind of unroll a map in front of you. And so this is a roguelite, I guess. The map will constantly change. And so, like, as there are icons on the map, and sometimes you'll have a choice between 2 or 3 options, and the icons on the map will tell you what's going to happen if you go to that space. You're trying to choose, as you progress through the game, you play against this guy. If you keep winning, then you can move ahead on the map, and there are events on the map where maybe you can sacrifice one of your cards to give one card's power to another, or you can try to increase the power of one of your cards. But again, like, there's like this eerie creepiness to everything about this game. First of all, the card game itself. Every hand, so you've got spaces to place 4 cards in front of you, and it's got that I'm guessing it's a pretty common setting of like the you can hit the creature right in front of you, or if there's no creature in front of you to absorb the damage, like, you're hitting the hit points of the player, right? So the goal is to hit them like with a difference of 6 between their score and yours. And it's harder than it looks, because you usually, you hit by 1, 2, 3 hit points max. And like 3 hit points, like, that's the good cards that you don't have right away. But before you can set down your good cards that do damage, you got to put down. You start usually all your hands with at least 1 squirrel card, and the squirrel doesn't do really anything. It can take 1 damage, so you could send it to die, like, to take a hit, so that your hit points don't take the hit. But the real purpose is that the all your other cards that actually can do damage need a sacrifice to be put on the board. So the squirrel is the sacrifice. So if you've got a card with like 1 blood drop at the top right corner, that means that it will take 1 sacrifice to put on the board. And that sacrifice usually will be a squirrel. You kind of have to start with that. Or it could be another card on the board that's got, that's another type of creature. Like, maybe like you do want eventually to sacrifice one of your lesser hitting cards so that you can put down like a card that has like a 2 or 3 blood drop requirement. And then like you put that down, and hopefully, you're trying to win the game with that, right? So yeah, it's all like this kind of creepy stuff. When you certain events on the map, like you it's not just that, like, oh, in this spot, like, you can take a chance and increase the attack power of this one card that you set down here. It's like, well, there are like all these like hungry looking, forest dudes surrounding this fire, and they're like, come on, come put your creature on the fire, like, it's gonna grow stronger and everything. And like you do that, usually you can do that once, and then like the game is like, well, you could keep doing this, you could do it again, but these people look mighty hungry, like there's like the one over there is drooling or like reaching for its for his knife or something. And then you can keep trying, keep testing your luck. And like you risk a chance of losing your card to the fire, or really, really raising your card's power. Because this is a roguelite, you will die a lot. Like initially, actually, like I don't think that you can really go through this game the first time through. Like you don't have the cards that you need.
Right.
The thing is that you don't especially gain, like with every match, you don't keep the good cards. Like you always have the same cards in your deck for at the start, and when you beat the computer, like you don't necessarily gain their cards or anything, But what happens is that eventually you realize that all this scene is like all 3D polygons. Like you're playing this card game in a setting. Like you realize that if you hit back on one of the sticks, actually, you can look up from the table, you can look up from the game, and you head back again, and you just like get up, and you realize that you can move around the cabin. Now, it's not a big cabin. It's actually, and like the way that you can move is all, like it's a grid. It's a 9x9 grid, and two of them, like one square of the grid is occupied by the table, and the other one by the glowing pair of eyes. So there's only like 7 spaces that you can explore. But you'll see on the wall a cuckoo clock, and you'll see like a tome, like with like differently explain some things about the cards. You'll see different like stuff that looks like they could be puzzles, but you don't necessarily know how to solve them yet. Weird things in the cabin. And so as you keep playing, you get more and more events during the card games that will lead you to get the means to actually solve these puzzles. And usually when you solve them, then you gain some object or some new card that's going to make your life a lot easier. And eventually, so it took me a while, but like eventually I got lucky enough that I managed to power one of my good cards enough to make it really lethal. Like it was, anyway, so you need a certain amount of luck. And I made it through, after many tries, I made it through the 3 bosses of the game. And I knew that this game kind of plays with your expectations and like does some weird stuff, and already the fact that like there's this space that you can explore and solve puzzles in, that's already weird, and I had heard about that, so I knew to expect it. And yeah, like so I thought that I had beaten the game at that point, and I really, really hadn't. Because and now I like it's always like this thing, like if I say too much, I'm going to spoil the surprise. But I feel like if I did explain what you get after you finish the first part of the game, like it might convince some people that like, oh, like actually, like this is really something I could really get into. So yeah, so I don't know. Like I guess I'm not going to say what happens, but I can say that it becomes something that is not a roguelite card game. The cards, like the cards aspect, still remains, but it turns into something else that might be of interest to people who like those types of trading card games. I can't really say much more than that.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
And initially, I was like, I was kind of deflated by the fact that, like, oh, like, actually, like, I thought I was done, like, with, like, a short game. Turns out that, like, it's vastly, it's much bigger than I thought it would be. And I was feeling deflated because I wanted it to be over. But I think that part of that was, like, just kind of the discovery that oh, shit, like, I'm actually not done with this game. Not even close. So I was like, I think maybe I'm going to stop there. But today I picked it back up. I was like, well, maybe I should just prod at it a little bit, like see if this like new phase of the game is interesting. And it is. And so like I think I'm going to keep playing. Like I had decided yesterday, like, I don't really feel like it. Now I'm changing my mind. Part of it is that the roguelite aspect was getting, repetitive and it was pretty difficult. And now in this new phase, I feel like the difficulty has reset a little bit. So I'm more into it. And also there's like during the whole roguelike phase, you can't really build a deck, like it's not a thing that you do. Like you have the cards that you have and you have no control over, you don't have extra cards that you can leave out or anything like that. But this new phase, you can build a deck, which probably makes, Magic the Gathering or Pokemon fans salivate or something, like they're into that kind of stuff. But I'm not, like, that's one of the things that was deflating to me. I was like, I don't feel like becoming that type of person who builds a deck, who decides, like, exactly, like, okay, I'm going to optimize my deck of 20 cards here. But there's an option for the game to kind of do it automatically for you with the cards that you have. So, again, that helps me. I need that. I don't want to have to think about building a deck. So, yeah, like ultimately, like a very cool game. And I'm not nearly done with it. So it's interesting. It was interesting before that twist that I hit, and it's interesting now. So I recommend it highly, especially if you're into card games. But even if you're not, like, you might want to check it out.
Cool. All right. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. I'm going to go quick. I bought some stuff during the Black Friday sale on the eShop. There will be more sales. There's usually another sale closer to Christmas, end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But
Boxing
one of
Day.
the games I got for $1. One greenback was Kill La Kill If, which is based on the anime of the same name minus the if part, which is I'm going to try to describe this in the best terms I can.
How pervy is it?
Everyone's naked all the time.
Okay.
So it's not so much like we're going to sexualize female characters. We're going to sexualize everybody. Because clothes are the enemy. And I'm not even joking. That is the key plot conceit. Clothes are the enemy. They are evil clothes. I won't give any more than that. But this anime is somewhat seminal because it wasn't Studio Trigger's first big show. Because their first thing was that Little Witch show. I can't remember what the full name is, but this was their first like huge certifiable hit. Because it was a big deal, but that was over 10 years ago. This is an old show. So the fact that it got a game about 2 years ago now, is kind of ridiculous. It is a show all about when the animation budget hits. There's a term for this, sakuga, which literally just means drawings, but in the context of animation, especially in Japanese animation, the budget's not distributed evenly. It's not like, oh, each frame gets X amount of budget. It'll be like, we're going to save a whole bunch of money for the first 20 minutes of this episode, and then we're going to go fucking nuts for like 3 minutes. And then the last minute is going to be credits that seem to take way too long because we're padding the runtime. This is a show full of that. Extremely high action, lots of dramatic visual angles, and then lots of just comedy segments of characters standing there yelling at each other in exaggerated animation with not much going on because they're saving the budget for the fight scene in Act 3. I will say right out of the gate, this thing, considering, that's a 2D animated show, and this is a 3D game, they did a remarkable job making it look like the hand-drawn game. Like, legitimately, or the hand-drawn show, like, legitimately, it looks very much like the show, to the point of, wow, if you have never seen the show, you could just play this game and get the bullet. Don't do that. It basically cuts all the comedy out, which there's a lot of comedy in that show. And it retells the plot from the perspective of, the young woman who is the initial enemy before the scope expands. So it's kind of this weird segment of like, you're going to play a bunch of missions as this character who is the first enemy in the series. And you're going to essentially experience the fights that we never see of hers because she's not the main character. But in the game, she is. You play through it, you get a bunch of story sequences. It more or less follows the beats, except she's kind of taken on some of the responsibilities of the series' main character. The problem is it's an arena fighter. So it's like a side-to-side fighting game, a 2D fighting game. And it doesn't always feel right. Because what I like about it is the fighting itself has a lot of that same Sakuga elements. There's huge explosive clashes. There's big, loud, glowing ranged attacks that characters are able to fire off. There's all kinds of just visual candy happening on screen. But a lot of the bosses are just impossible to get in on. Like, you just can't get in on them, and they can just keep slamming you into the wall because this game effectively allows for near infinite combos. And you can just get annihilated by these bosses almost instantly. It's crazy. And that takes you into the game's other issue, which it has fucking hella load times. Just ridiculous load times. Just so long. They're so long. So, like, you get absolutely stomped by an enemy, and then you get 30 seconds of loading. And then you go play that fight again and get stomped in about 45 seconds. And then it's not 30 seconds of loading. And you do it again, and it's more loading. And you might start to figure out a pattern to get in on the enemy. And like a lot of the hard fights, it would take me 4, 5, 6 tries with that load sequence to figure out, like, okay, how do I deal with their ranged attacks they're using to keep me at distance? Or if it's an enemy that I can't get close because they're going to absolutely curb stomp me if I do, how do I start whittling them down at a distance so I can close the gap and, like, get them locked into a combo? When do I need to bail out of the combo because they're about to break it? And that doesn't feel good. Like, it feels like you really don't have a chance here. Like, you're never going to win this fight the first time. No one is. It's possible. Because you just, like, the game just expects you to have secret knowledge about how to deal with that character's particular brand of bullshittery. And they're big arenas, too. So, like, they might be on the far end, and it's a not insignificant amount of time you have to close on them, and they're just blasting you with waves and waves of bullshit the whole time. So it's like, well, that doesn't help me at all get over there. I got shot out of the air with the homing attack by a boss and then into an infinite combo and lost. It sucked. Some of the missions also have multiple enemies that they might be attacking you all at once. The lock-on system is basically just whoever's closest to you. So if you're trying to take somebody out, the lock-on system might just keep bouncing you between two of them. And I'm like, no, I just want to deal with this guy because I'm trying to get him off the screen so it's a one-on-one fight now. And then some fights are just stupid. They're just way too easy. They're like brain dead easy. It doesn't make any sense. I will say, if you are a fan of the series, this is probably worth seeing, especially if you paid $1 for it. But I definitely got mad at it a few times because I felt like some of the missions were not okay. Just weren't balanced. There is a second story that you unlock if you beat the first one that resets the protagonist back to the series' normal protagonist, but it's still a different, like, parallel universe plot bullshit where things went slightly differently. But visually, this game is worth experiencing if you enjoyed the show. And the show is fucking rad. If you're not familiar with it, you might be familiar with the movie the same team did a few years later called Promare. It's got a lot in common visually with that. If you've never seen the show, how comfortable are you with essentially like almost nudity? Because there's a lot of it in this show, because again, clothes are the enemy. If you can get past that, which is not easy, it's a really fucking rad show. But yeah, like there's a lot of like henshin into no clothing. Or like almost no clothing. Like only the parts that the TV people in Japan demanded we cover are covered, and that is the end of it. There is a male character that is only ever nude. He runs an organization called Nudist Beach, so I guess that makes sense. And there is a certain amount of comedy in them just constantly putting things in front of his gentleman parts. Of just the things that it's basically the opening sequence to, I think it's the second Austin Powers movie. It's just that, but for one character for an entire fucking series. Which is fine.
That gag comes back like every movie, actually. I don't know.
It does, but there's an extended sequence of it in that opening when he's going through the hotel.
Right.
It's a lot of that with that character. So yeah, like if you can get past that, this show's fucking rad. If you can't, don't, because this show does that all the fucking time. All the time. It's a mix on the, I'm trying to remember the Sokoban kinda, Sokoban, that's not the right word? The punk high school girl, which was a trend in the 80s in Japan in particular. Sukeban, that's it. Sukeban Deka is the prototype. It's a modernization of that style of show, including the main character looking a lot like one of the characters from Sukeban Deka. But like set in this post-apocalyptic future where the whole world is being run by a fashion designer who runs a clothing house. Also, her daughter runs an evil Japanese high school that's trying to conquer the world. It's very stupid. And that's not even close to the dumbest shit in this show. But the rebel is constantly going to class anyway, and nobody they'll just yell at her for being there and tell her to meet them after school. It's like, no, we can't break up class time. That's sacrosanct. We're just going to try to murder you after class. That's okay. There is something very dumb about it that I enjoyed immensely. And again, like I said, the animation is fucking unbelievable. So yeah, it's kind of amazing they made a game that looks this good and looks this accurate for a show that is known for being crazy looking. So if you enjoyed the show, it's worth doing. But like I said, the gameplay is not great and some of the balance is all fucked up, but you could change the difficulty. There's one battle where I just said fuck it, dropped it down to easy and just got through the battle and called it. But yeah, I think I saw everything in about 4 or 5 hours, so it's pretty short. But yeah, I enjoyed it. There is multiplayer. You can unlock lots of characters from the series and play as them. I haven't had a chance to mess with that. I played as the leader of the band club once, just to see. That's her position of power. She runs the band club, and she's dressed like a majorette. It's very stupid. But yeah, I don't know that I'd recommend it. Like, if you're a fan of the show, like, if it goes on sale like that again, yeah, fuck it. Like, even if you have a bad time, you spent, I think actually it was $1.40. Like, oh no, I spent less than the price of a soda from a vending machine. Whatever shall I do? But yeah, it was certainly worth seeing. Cause it's wild how good it looks. Absolutely wild. John, do you have a bunch of stuff going on?
I do. So, as I tend to do, things.
Are you an Xbox?
I'm trying. Lord knows.
Okay. Great.
That means that I'm not advertising really good games that I make.
That's true. You're not.
Nope.
Well, you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, things rattle around in my brain, James. I think about things for a while. I think about
I'm aware of that too.
I think about things for a while, and then I act on them. So
and make the worst decision. Yes, I'm aware.
So, I've been thinking about, I don't even know why, I've just been thinking about, PlayStation VR 2. Right?
Because it was on sale.
Well, no, I've been thinking about it for a while. There wasn't really an impulse, but I was very curious to see what it would go if it would go on sale. I mean, I knew it would go on sale on Black Friday. I didn't really know, but
I need you.
But I didn't know if it would go on sale and be discounted deep enough for me to care. So, because I sure as heck wasn't paying what $600. That's what the normal price is.
That's the list price.
I was like, there's no way.
On top of the PS5, you have to buy to use it.
Right. There's no way. That is an absolutely ridiculous amount of money. So it dropped to $350. Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm in. And so it's cool. I gotta say, it is really cool. I haven't played too much. I did pick up a bunch of, because there were also, of course, Black Friday, there was also a bunch of PSVR 2 compatible games on sale.
Right.
So I stocked up on several of those because some of them are really deeply discounted. Like the Resident Evil stuff was really, really cheap. Like Thumper, which is an older game, kind of a rhythm game, that was also on very cheap. What I've mainly played is, first thing I tried out of the gate, just because I'm so familiar with it, is Tetris Effect Connected. And that's cool.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the best way to play that game, just because I find that, playing that game with the D-pad is the best way to do it. And of course, the PSVR 2 controllers don't have D-pads. They just have the analog sticks, which is, I found that you could make a lot of, like, premature drops and stuff like that. You just tend to mess up. There's just, it looks really cool. I mean, it was certainly impressive when you start that game and you put on the headset and, you just look around and you're like hovering above the planet. And as someone who hasn't really played VR very much, I think I've really had only one other time, at some gaming event I played, what is it? Say, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. I think I've played that. And then there was some other sort of thing where, somebody else had to talk and you were walking through the VR environment and they had to direct you to dismantle a bomb or something like that. So that's sort of my extent. So I would say I'm probably pretty easy to impress right now. Certainly not
good.
I'm pretty much a neophyte to a lot of the VR stuff, but I mean, my impression, just off the top, I can tell you right now, it's very good for certain things. For other things, forget it. But Tetris Connected, it's really cool. Plays really well in VR. And that game tries to, I mean, it's pretty much the Tetris board with a whole bunch of stuff revolving around it and stuff like that. And it's just very immersive and it's cool. The game that I can't stop playing is Synth Rider. That game is fantastic. So this was one where I was just looking up sort of, on Reddit what kind of games people like. And somebody recommended Synth Rider. And it happened to be on sale. And so I picked that up, and it's incredibly cool. I mean, it's it's like an on-rails rhythm game with a ton of DLC, but it's all sort of neon 80s theme kind of synth music, which is right up my alley. And so plays really well, super fun. It's pretty difficult even on lower difficulties, but it's really, really cool. It can get really intense, but you're trying to match. You have your two controllers, and they're represented in the game as a couple of orbs that you're playing with, but you pretty much have to match rails and hit things and stuff like that. You're sort of just on rails, going forward with objects coming towards you, and you have to hit them, and some of them you have to hit them with both of your hands. Some, like one color is for your left hand, one color is for your right hand, and they switch over and stuff like that. So that's a really, really cool game. And so I've been enjoying that. Other games I picked up the Horizon game. That's the bundle that I got. For some weird reason, the bundle was the same price as the one without the Horizon game. I don't understand that. I don't know why it would have. They were both $349 on Amazon and everywhere, pretty much. Basically, everywhere dropped it to $349. So
yeah.
So that's
There's
really
stock to move, John.
There's definitely stock to move for sure. But that was the thing. There's no way I was going to buy into this unless it dropped by almost 50%, which is what it was. Which is actually
price to get it the fuck out of our warehouse.
Exactly. So Yeah, so I haven't dug into some of those. I haven't played Resident Evil. I haven't played Gran Turismo. Like, I'll get to those eventually. Gran Turismo is one I'm really, really curious about. Just seeing what that is, and really, I'm actually more curious. Like, I haven't had any motion sickness or anything like that, but Gran Turismo is kind of a different beast, just because I could see that maybe being very, very weird to play, just because I can just tell you that, from like driving that car is going to be very disorienting.
I have done race cars in VR.
Mm-hmm.
If everything is synced right,
Yeah.
and everything responds correctly, and when you turn your head, it represents the correct angles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably one of the best VR experiences you can have.
Yeah. VR is extremely good for things coming towards you from the distance.
Especially in like a cockpit scenario.
Yes.
Because things are changing only in a very limited view.
Yeah.
And your head is stationary, effectively. You're just turning it. But if that stuff's not in sync, like at all, like misses slightly, it sucks. And it's upsetting.
Yeah.
So have fun.
Yeah. I'm very curious to that. I mean, I think I would assume that the Horizon game it plays effectively like a VR Skyrim sort of thing, where you would be going through and attacking things, and everything is in first person, and
so.
You're just hitting stuff and climbing stuff and what have you. So I'm sure it'll look gorgeous. As a Sony first party title, I think it'll probably look amazing, and certainly would be one of the showcases for it. But I'm not expecting to be really wowed by it. But overall, yeah, I mean, it's very, very cool. The hardware, of course, I mean, Sony makes really slick hardware, and this is no exception. The only thing is that I find the glasses really fog up. I find I sweat like crazy. It's ridiculous. I need a sweat.
Yeah,
I need a headband or something, because man, I just sweat like crazy in this thing. Either that or I have to play it inside a refrigerated room or something.
What if you stuck your head in your Xbox refrigerator?
Hey, that's it's all coming together. See, I knew.
There you go.
I knew that I would have a use for it, right?
We devised some last week. If you want to go back and listen, so
I don't know if I want to do that. But yeah, it's very cool. You do have to fiddle a little bit with the glasses, because you can adjust them, how close they are to your face, and also sort of adjust the gear on your head, even though all of that works really well, and it's very easy to adjust, but sometimes it can get a bit finicky in having to reset itself. And usually it's good, but sometimes you're just like, okay, I kind of got to go back to the drawing board, and I have to like kind of go through the setup, the syncing again, and just adjust, because it kind of locks in its settings for where you adjust it in terms of how you have it adjusted on your head. And usually what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the glasses adjusted in a way so that they're not blurry. So it's like you have to kind of get them right at the right angle, or else they'll be just a little bit blurry. So that can be a little bit janky at times, a little bit annoying. But I mean, overall, it's a really good experience. It's certainly more impressive than I thought it would be. But again, I feel like it's a very narrow, like I still think it's a very niche product. Why anybody thinks that this is some sort of mainstream product, I still don't understand, because it's very
wish casting.
Yeah, it's very bulky, and not really that great for playing with other people. You can do it, but you have to hand off the entire thing to somebody, and then they have to kind of readjust it for themselves, and sometimes they have to go through the setup just to kind of get things synced. It's just not really that portable a product, or it's as much as that.
It's expensive, and it doesn't demo well.
Exactly. I mean, and I think that one of the improvements that they made with PSVR 2 versus 1 is that they only have a single cable going to the PS5. I believe the first one had a couple of cables. So this one is much slicker, and I think it's much better. But what I thought was interesting was that PSVR 1 games are not compatible with PSVR 2.
Yes. Because the technology that powers it is different.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting because I'm like, oh, cool! I'll be able to play Skyrim. Me, naively thinking this, it's I'll be able to play Skyrim.
Finally, you can play Skyrim.
And finally I can play Skyrim, right? I figured I'd just be able to grab all of the, pick up, like I think Doom 3 is in VR, which would be cool to play in VR. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just be able to pick those up. And then I realized, none of these PSVR 1 games are compatible with PSVR 2. So yeah, that's a no-go. So you really do have maybe about probably 8 games that you really want to play with PSVR 2. And that's about it.
That was more or less the problem with PSVR 1 is there was like 7 or 8 games and I had 3 of them. And look, if I wish Star Wars Squadrons worked on this thing.
Yeah.
Cuz to me that was an experience where they figured out what matters. The game, like it's the same cockpit thing. You're in a cockpit, everything's coming at you. You're not walking around, which can fuck with VR.
Yeah.
Your head's more or less stationary because you're locked into a flight ship. And the action's all around you. You can look around. You can look at the controls. You can see an X-Wing come flying in from your side. You feel like you have better control over what's situational awareness. And the other part they did was all the story sequences, you're inside a Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
And so you actually get to look around and see the scale of a Star Destroyer, which is, it's not human comprehensible. Mm-hmm. It's not a scale that humanity has built things at. So there's a certain amount of just like, oh my God, this is a giant space. This is a completely unimaginably giant space. I will say they do a pretty good job of capturing that in the Rise of the Resistance ride at the Disney parks. But yeah, it's even more like overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So they really cashed in on it. But the PSVR 1 has drift issues. So like you're constantly turning to keep it centered.
Yeah.
So like getting to do that in the VR 2 hardware would have been cool, but it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Which is sad. You should buy a PSVR 1. Just to complete the set.
To complete the set. Yeah. Just looking at what I have here, it's I have Horizon Call of the Mountains, Synth Riders, Resident Evil Village, which I'm sure is really cool. I think Resident Evil 7 also has VR, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Tetris Effect Connected, Thumper, Resident Evil 4, I believe, also has PSVR 2. Res Infinite, and I think that's it. That's what I have there. So that is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9 games. 9 games.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's a couple I want to get. I want to pick up Beat Saber, even though it wasn't on sale. So I was like, I got tons of other stuff to play, so I don't need it. And I think Synapse is apparently a really good first-person shooter, which one of the things that I also did was took advantage of the upgrade, the 30% off upgrade for my PlayStation Plus account. So I have that until May of next year. So I have Synapse. That game is included. I don't need to buy it. So nice. I'll probably play that. But yeah, so it's interesting. Sony, I always admire Sony's hardware. They really make slick stuff, even though some of it is completely unnecessary. A lot of it is completely unnecessary.
Yeah, but I was about to correct you, but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it. Good to hear, just as a side note, good to hear that Sony is making another handheld. I think that's probably a fool's errand, but I always love to see Sony's handhelds. But I just also find it funny that Nintendo makes a handheld, and now all of a sudden handhelds are cool, and everybody's making them. So there you go.
What are the odds they take entirely the wrong lessons from what Nintendo did?
They will have to have a camera on it, for sure. I'm
going to put it between 90 and 100% they take the wrong lessons.
Yeah, for sure.
I've heard, this is going to be able to play PS5 games. I'm like, what would the battery draw on that be? How hot would that motherfucker get? You don't want that. You don't want that. That would be bad.
This is a company that really took a while to dump their proprietary memory sticks that were incredibly expensive.
Yes.
So
they put them in their cameras too. Well after everybody had moved to SD.
Yep. So
Yeah, it's cool. It's very fun.
Yeah. And so that's PSVR 2. So the other game I picked up too, more Nintendo related, is Castlevania Dominus Collection, which has been touched on already. But yeah, man, this game just makes me realize how cool the DS Castlevania games are. I started Dawn of Sorrow just to kind of see how it played more than anything.
DFS.
I like how I like the way that they lay out the DS screen, like with the map, on the right hand side in a sidebar they have the map and your status screen on there at all times. I feel like it's weird because they have you can use the touchpad on the Dual Sense controller to write in some cases. Like the whole thing where it was like you start off the game and you write your name in the space. I was like, my God, this is the thing you chose to leave in? This? And so, I put there's no way I could ever write my name properly in that space. So I just put like a horrible J and a horrible L. And I was like, okay, let's just go and get out of here. They leave that in, but then the connect the dots stuff with the souls or whatever. They change that into like kind of like a rhythm sort of thing, or a pattern matching thing with the controller buttons, with the face buttons. So I didn't understand that really at all. It's, if anything, they should have done it the other way around and just skipped the whole stupid thing where you sign in with your name. So, and left that in for the connect the dots thing. But yeah, but it's very cool. I mean, those games look great. They play really well. So, and I had not touched those for, since they came out, really. I don't even know if I've played Order of Ecclesia. So, yeah, looking forward to it, but that's good. I also thought it was interesting that they had Haunted Castle on there, which is the true first arcade game from Castlevania, whereas the original Castlevania, the NES Castlevania, was ported to the arcade as Versus Castlevania, so this Haunted Castle is actually a real arcade version of it, which I've never played, so I'm interested to play that really and see how it stacks up against something like Super Castlevania 4, which I'm also playing through in the Castlevania Anniversary Collection. So I do like the fact they also added Rewind to this as well, which Castlevania Anniversary Collection doesn't have. Castlevania Anniversary Collection is a little bit bare bones. It's not super impressive.
Yeah.
This one's better. Like the fact that you can only have one save slot, or I save scum the hell out of all these things. So the fact that you can only have one save going at any given time, I'm sitting there thinking like, this is actually a better experience to play through these games on my Steam Deck with using emulation, because you can have as many saves as you want, and so. But that being said, they still play really well. Not as many display options on this though. So I mean, they were never. I guess they were never on a CRT TV, so there is no scanline mode to be had here. It's just the DS screen being blown up to a very, very large degree. But But yeah, look forward to playing through them. So. Yeah, fortunately, I didn't have a large backlog to begin with, so this puts a couple things on my backlog, so yeah.
Well,
nice.
I was going to say, with Haunted Castle, I mean, actual Haunted Castle's not that hot. I mean, it's mileage may vary naturally, but there's some historical kind of curiosity factor to it, and it is obviously very brief, being an arcade game, and you've got just kind of cheese it with the coin feeding when you don't actually have to pay. You can see what it's got to offer, but the M2 did a kind of like
the remaster.
Redux, like kind of like what if it wasn't as bad, and like that is very brief and easy but fun, so you could scratch that off a backlog before it starts to gather dust.
Nice. I will do that. That's it.
Cool. Greg, wrap us up.
Sure, yeah, well, I don't have a lot to offer, so I'll probably just you get us out of the segment pretty quickly here, because it's just been a bad few weeks in terms of actually being able to fit anything in. So the Brothership kind of voyage continues, but I don't even know how close I am to the end, to be honest, because it's just been, a little kind of chipping away here or there over the past couple of weeks, which kind of breaks down the kind of momentum that you would normally have if you're playing something in a more concentrated fashion, where you get that feeling of like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of getting through these milestones, and I know how kind of, even if it's not explicit, you get a sense at least of like how close you are to the end. Because it's been so piecemeal, I can't say, as I do. The Switch is not especially precise activity thing, has me at about 15 hours logged in, which again, like, how long have I had this now? Like 3 or 4 weeks. So it hasn't been, that hasn't been a particularly torrid sort of pace. And again, that's not really anything to do with the game. It's just the way things have gone. And like I said, it does at least, I believe I said in the previous episode, it has a little bit of a kind of digestible format to it in terms of all these kind of island-based quests that are kind of little digestible bits that you can play in, which is nice for portable play. So in that sense, that the fact that there have been these kind of layoffs and kind of loss of forward momentum, it hasn't been that detrimental. But I assume if there was some aspects would have been quicker or like more enjoyable if you were kind of stringing them together a little bit more quickly than I have done. So at some point that is going to end, and I can probably get on with Professor Layton in earnest at that point. So, there's that to consider. I mean, the one thing I will say, John talking about Dominus collection there's one, because I don't think I mentioned this when we sort of introduced Brothership on the show, if you like, is that it has like a concept that really seems like it's a hangover from the DS and 3DS era, even though they had plenty of games on those platforms, you know what I mean? Like, they had very long time to think about implementing something like this into an actual dual screen game, and somehow didn't really, unless I'm forgetting something, because they were all quite a long time ago now. But like, basically, you've got this notion, which I think I've mentioned about, you kind of, connecting up a bunch of islands into like a formation so that they all kind of drift on the ocean together. But what this kind of means is that like you can kind of set this formation, this sort of fleet of islands on a course. And then, like, that kind of just goes on in the background. Like, so all of your kind of hub is drifting towards a new location to find a new island that's going to connect up with all the other ones later, right? But then, like, you just have to kind of bring up, like, a sub-screen. And, you can tell, like, as the game goes on, like, you can unlock a faster sailing speed and stuff. So it's like, okay, you can speed up to get to a new spot quicker and then slow down when you want to see what's going on and all that. But it's all a little bit clunky when you've got to swap, the display to this, like, sub-screen to actually kind of interact with it. It just is such a sub-screen kind of thing, right? It'd just be perfect parked on the bottom screen of a DS or a 3DS, and it's like, oh, well, the hub has reached a new spot on the ocean where there's something to see. There's like these very minor like islets where there might just be like a little bonus game on there, or the major islands, or you get like rewards for spotting these like reef formations, in the ocean and stuff. So it's just like, it's such a. It feels like that had to be an idea from. I know, obviously, Alpha Dream's gone. There's a certain amount of developer talent in common here, but it's being developed by Acquire. but you know, like it just this had to be in a design document somewhere, like for a previous game, because I mean there was Partners in Time, there was Bowser's Inside Story, there was Dream Team, there was Paper Jam, the remakes. Like they had loads of time to come up with ideas. Why is it in this one for a system that doesn't have 2 screens? It's very strange. I don't, it's not like I don't. It's still kind of like a sort of somewhat cute idea for this kind of mobile hub that, you know, and like you can kind of almost like set it on a course and they're like, oh, I'll do some side quests while, you know, it's doing that, I guess. Although, again, once you unlock the faster sailing speed, it's fast enough that you wouldn't certainly be obliged to do that, anything like that anymore. But I guess it's just like a cute touch, you know, for the idea of that there is this kind of big world and, you know, you've got to navigate it kind of thing. And it fits in with a lot of aspects of the game that feel like, I don't know, maybe this is just me being the better part of a decade older than I was the last time I played a Mario and Luigi game for the first time, but it does feel like it's skewing a little bit younger than those games did. Which, I mean, again, like, obviously, I mean, they've always skewed somewhat young. They're kind of your comedic RPGs, you know, that aren't too technical, that are leaning on these sort of silent movie hijinks of like the two of them gesturing and all this kind of stuff. You know, it's never exactly been you know, strictly for middle-aged people or anything, but it does feel like it kind of skews kind of young, and maybe that's part of it, this idea of just like trying to sell to younger players that it's, you know, it's not just a hub, it's this whole floating, you know, kind of group of islands that are, say, out on the open seas and stuff. But yeah, just a little bit kind of peculiar, I guess, but for it to be here. But in the main, you know, things proceed, you know, kind of as you'd expect, and you know, kind of getting a bit more options in the battling. You've got these like kind of buffs that you earn them by exploring, essentially, because like anytime you're on a new island, you explore, not Yoshi's New Island, but any new island, you will find like these kind of glow things, like this kind of glowing currency in spots around, and where you build up a bank of that, and then you can later on, when you unlock this, you get the chance to spend those points on different like battle buffs, basically, and then you can kind of they kind of have a limited number of uses before they have to like get rotated out. So it's kind of trying to, I guess, prevent you from just locking in on like, oh yeah, this combination completely kicks ass and is way better than other combinations or makes battling really easy, so I'll just have that on all the time. Like it kind of forces you this number of uses before it kind of ceases to function for a while, and then events at some point they come back and you can use them again. It just kind of gives you the incentive and the kind of imperative to like, okay, no, I'll make a bunch of different ones and I'll experiment with them and try them in different combinations and stuff. So, you know, it's kind of trying to tie exploration a little bit into getting better at battles, as well as just the usual mechanism of, you know, fight more battles, watch the numbers go up and your stats go up and everything, which, you know, is fair enough. It's kind of somewhat minor, I guess you could say. Again, I don't know how many of the battles are really that difficult that you need to be giving yourself an edge with these buffs, like strictly speaking. But again, that said, as someone who's played like all the games in the series, and it's you know, they probably felt like maybe these buffs and things would be more helpful to the new players or the inexperienced players of a game of this type. So, you know, you could kind of see the logic behind it, and it kind of gives you some reasons to go back to islands that you've essentially kind of completed, because what happens is every time something gets like connected into the wider kind of hub, certain features of that level, that island, open up, right? You like flowers bloom, and then you can walk off in this other path, and that'll show you more of those glowing currency things that you can use to get more buffs, or it'll open up a shortcut that just makes exploration easier. So it's kind of like you've always got this little bit of a retraversal element baked in with the islands, of like they're kind of designed almost like strictly as like a level for like the first time you're there to do the main quest thing that you have to do there. But then there's a more kind of open quality to them if you go back, where it's like, no, well, you know, it's easier to traverse in like certain directions, but there's also more to explore if you want to go there. And there'll be certain environmental features that, you know, now that you've got a new ability that Mario and Luigi can like hover over gaps or something, you can get to different places. So there never tend to be, at least to this point, anything that terribly consequential, but it's just kind of nice knowing that there's, you know, the levels, have a certain amount of like layers to their design, on these islands and stuff. So I don't know whether any of that will get more critical as we get deeper into it, but, you know, you could see the certain level of care that's gone into it that I think is kind of admirable. But until I can kick it into high gear a bit more, I can't really sort of offer terribly much more in terms of a real kind of verdict on how well I felt like they actually kind of moved the series down the field or not with this one.
Cool. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that'll do.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we'll do a little bit of your listener mail. So stay tuned. We return.
Brute Force. Brute Force is the game that I was looking for, but it came 2 years. And it's a first-person shooter. I thought it was some sort of...
I thought it was third.
No, third person.
That's the one where, like, one of your party members is like a lizard man or something.
Yes.
Why do I know all this?
So
during the break, we were talking about Microsoft and their inability to create a mascot.
Maybe you're an Xbox, James. Maybe
there's an email about this.
Is it.
And we'll get to that email, but I was able to rattle off a remarkable number of original Xbox exclusive games. They're all bad. All bad.
I would say it's a macabre fascination.
The
worst that
is.
Xbox has offered.
Well, in the first generation of Xbox, the worst that Xbox has to offer was what the Xbox has to offer that isn't Project Gotham, Halo, and Mech Assault.
Yeah.
This is a dire scene. I'm gonna go with Hunter the Reckoning is a good one. If you need something to go look up. Maybe Tao Fang. It had a subtitle. I don't remember what it was. Or Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball, which Microsoft made an entire ad campaign about. She kicks high. Actually, that was Dead or Alive 3, I think. Extreme Beach Volleyball was the volleyball game that came out afterwards. Dino Crisis 3 was also an exclusive, and it was in space. It was dinosaur. It was Jason X, but with dinosaurs.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm sold.
That's the correct response. Wow.
The only logical conclusion to draw from that is that Dino Crisis 3 also features David Cronenberg in a rare acting role.
You know what? That would have been better. I don't know. Crimson Skies was also pretty good. There we go. Okay, we gave them credit for 4 games. 4 games. But yeah, Blink's Time Sweeper, not a mascot. Stop asking. Available on your Xbox though. So anyway, emails. We're not doing that email. We'll do that email another week. I need more time to research the Xbox 360 era to see Microsoft's pursuit of a mascot in that time frame. I don't know that one as well. Why do I know the older era that was less relevant better than the era I had the system and it was more the fuck's wrong with me? All right.
Well, more stuff came out on the 360.
Yeah,
it's just James, it's more stupidity. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, you're right.
You love it.
Yeah, it just stuck with me because you could tell in the moment it was stupid, and history has proven it was dumber than I gave it credit for. Yeah. It's you and I talking about the Atari XE. Mm-hmm. Like, why does this exist? It shouldn't. I understand that, but why? Well, it did. So think about it. And then it just gets lodged in your brain.
Yep.
Just gets lodged in your brain.
Why did it have a light gun? Who knows?
Why wouldn't it? Why did they make the light gun a gun color?
Touche.
Who could say? Not Atari, because they're fucking dead. But emails. You send an email to us. It goes to an inbox. We read that inbox. We select some of those games, talk about them on the show. That inbox is not a secret. You can access it whenever you like, 24/7, 365. I can't promise you that we're going to be manning it at all times, but it will get to us eventually. You do that by sending your email to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. That's RFN, the letters, at nintendoworldreport.com. It stands for Radio Free Nintendo, which is the name of this podcast. It's just a coincidence. I can't believe what are the odds. But if you don't want to send it to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com, well, we probably won't see it. But you can go to a link in the show notes of every episode that I write for some reason and click that, and you can send it without sending it through rfn@nintendoworldreport.com, unless you're on mobile device, because then the send button doesn't work. I'm still mad. Anyway, actually, it's not that it doesn't work. It's just not. There's just no send button. I can't explain it. But if you send us your email, and we read it, and we select it, I then vamp for between 1 and 4 minutes before I read it. And I'm doing, oh no, I don't have it up on my screen. GX writes, Dear RFN crew, I broadly remember Skyward Sword as the culmination of the Wii's concepts. A late-era Wii game whose core actions borrowed heavily from Wii Sports Resort, Wii Play, and the like, but putting them in the context of a larger adventure. As the Switch approaches its end of life, I couldn't point to a single culmination game. However, it still has one obvious chance left at Metroid Prime 4. What iconic Switch concepts would you add to Metroid Prime 4 to make it that culmination experience? Should the game come with a cardboard spaceship that controls Samus's actual ship? Would you have Samus have her own Ochi? Should the game be delayed a year for additional polish? That's how he ends the email. I'm going to reiterate, you can't delay Metroid. Well, actually, now you can delay Metroid Prime 4 because it has a vague date.
It's 25, right? Just 25 in general. So, if it hits 26, they delayed it. It's fair at that point.
Prior to this, it wasn't delayable because it never had a date. Now, it wasn't. It wasn't technically delayable. Now it is officially delayable. If we were having this conversation in December 2025, ta-da! But what attributes that have been matured and seasoned in the fires of the Switch, not literally, hopefully, could metastasize into Metroid Prime 4 in order to make Metroid Prime 4 the culmination
it would
of
have
the
to
Switch
have
experience.
Multiplayer using the voice chat app.
Good call.
Jesus.
Good call.
Jesus Christ.
There's no response to that either. I love it.
No, what am I supposed to say? Like, no,
that
that
sure was a thing that happened and that we've all pretty much moved on from. And other than this, should never speak of again.
It's installed on my phone out of an experiment I ran the other day, and it's still there. You could still do it if you want. For some reason, for no reason.
I'm surprised I didn't get a request to install it.
You should install it.
We could have talked, James.
It's not like we do that already.
At first, I was going to suggest something that utilizes all the features of the Switch, but the way that you phrase your question reminded me that actually the culmination of the Switch is Nintendo abandoning their own features one by one. Usually, late in the 3DS years, they weren't even doing 3D anymore, and I feel like Echoes of the Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, they're kind of not even bothering to make the game at a playable frame rate if you're mostly using the Switch on the TV. And so the culmination for Metroid Prime would be actually it's solely playable portably. You could put it in the dock, but it's not going to do anything. Like it just will refuse to display because the game will be optimized absolutely for handheld play.
Will it charge your Switch while it's in the dock, though?
I guess. But
will it display on the Switch screen to the inside of the dock, invisible to you because the dock is in the way?
Maybe there could be some sort of like an Easter egg or something. Like if you try to turn on your TV and look at what's happening in the game, like if you have the Switch turned on, like you get maybe a first-person view of like the inside of our ship or something. You can play some silly mini game, but that's it. That's the most it will do.
Great. I love it.
You can have a kind of, that's the thing with Breath of the Wild, in the, like so that at one point, maybe we would have thought that could have been the culmination of various things about the Wii U. But of course, it was much more the culmination in the way that Guillaume already outlined, in that, how about we just completely get rid of the gamepad functionality.
Exactly.
It was just shedding it because they didn't want to embarrass the Switch version in any way, which meant we all had to, kind of struggle with the managing the oversized inventory of
Despite
stuff.
The fact there's an item in the game that looks like a gamepad.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, but then the beauty of that is that Breath of the Wild, even though it was kind of having a somewhat inelegant kind of, again, subtraction of features that, in order for the Switch version to not be kind of giving anything away to the Wii U version, but then it's a huge success. So all those sort of clunky, UI kind of elements then persist into Tears of the Kingdom and indeed Echoes of Wisdom. So it's like, well, there you go. That's I don't know about culmination, just a bizarre evolutionary kind of tree there of, kind of having a shed features and then the kind of path dependency that comes with that. So God knows if we could come up with some sort of analogous thing for Metroid Prime 4 based on that. I mean, I was thinking with obviously Labo is a little bit similar to the voice app in that it kind of feels like a thing that happened and then it just moved on from it.
Sure.
And that was that. But instead of the ship, I was thinking like the something I quite like in Axiom Verge, which is obviously very Metroid inspired in the 2D context, is like the analog for the morph ball is kind of a drone. It's like, it's not you're not crawling about in little spaces. You kind of fire this drone, and kind of go through so maybe you could have something with that, those silly little things where, you kind of put a Joy-Con into a cardboard shell or whatever, and then the rumble kind of vibrated it along the floor. So how quickly you can construct a cardboard thing vibrated by Joy-Con, you can get that to move, will affect how now instead of Samus is done going into a morph ball, passe, get the drone to do it for you, but it can only move as quickly as a Joy-Con can vibrate across your floor in a bit of cardboard.
Oh my God. I was actually thinking you were going to go with, you have to fold a 600-piece hat shaped like Samus's visor or Samus's helmet, and
then play Labo VR, which that would be sort of portable only. You certainly wouldn't be playing on TV, would you?
No, you put there's a little slot for the Switch on the front of it. You slide it in there, and you hold the controllers, and then you just sit there and be Samus in your cardboard hat.
Yeah, like to make the kind of the required joke about them using the infrared, like maybe you could build your own cardboard arm cannon, and part of the thing about it would be that you get the red Joy-Con, the one with the infrared, like aimed at your hand, and you have to do like the hand gestures or whatever, hand positions to select the right beam.
Yeah, that is actually a thing that you could see in Metroid Prime, right? With the X-ray visor, you could see her hands,
exactly,
like kind of doing the gesture. That's a nice reference there to one of those many little details in the original Metroid Prime that people picked up on back then.
I'm not sure if it would be like if the motion is sensitive enough to allow you to play an entire game like aiming like that. So of course they're going to turn it into, like a rail shooter.
Yeah, the Dead Space one. What was that called again?
Extraction.
Extraction.
Yeah, Extraction.
Yeah, there you go.
I actually was thinking it's not a lesson from the system or from any specific game. It's a lesson from its library. You see, the Nintendo eShop library is, well, let me take a step back. If you remember, at one point we talked about Metroid Prime 4 being a anthology series of all the Metroid Prime 4s that never made it out. All the Metroid Prime 4s that got called back before they had to be restarted. I am suggesting that the next Metroid Prime 4, the Metroid Prime 4 we get to play, is in fact an anthology series based on the contents of the Nintendo eShop. So, one of them is going to be about Samus's feet. I'm sorry. One of them is going to be called Metroid Hentai. One of them is going to be a asset flip of a game about running a grocery store. Samus will come in, very poorly rendered at all times. And then one of them will be a game about just cats. It's just Samus and AI generated cats. That's it. That's the whole game. That's the 4 Metroid Prime 4s. Actually, you know what? I should make one of them, from, the team that does all those games that are all the same. The blank, blank, blank story, Kairosoft. So yeah, there's gonna be Bounty Hunter City Stories. It's going to be the same as fucking every other one of those goddamn things, except Samus is going to show up in it. It's going to be like Little London in the Layton game, but infinitely worse. So yeah, it'll be that. It'll be Hentai Girls Bounty Hunters will be one of the ones in there. I can't remember what the foot fetish game was, but that was a thing relatively recently. Thanks for that, eShop. Needed that in my life. And maybe an egg console game where it's all in Japanese, but it's a text adventure. Get fucked. Get fucked. That's actually, by the way, the second subtitle of Metroid Prime. I can't remember what Metroid Prime 4 subtitle is.
Beyond.
Yeah, it's beyond. It's beyond palatable. That's what it is. That's the final subtitle. Beyond usable. It's Metroid Prime 4 Beyond Usable. That's what they're actually going for. Beyond the eShop, even better. And sometimes you'll get the opportunity in the game where you'll load it up and you'll get a rare bundle opportunity where you get 2 of the games at one time.
What odds are you going to give me that there's going to be something in the game that could be referred to as some sort of Thunderdome?
I would give you 40% odds.
Somebody's got to put it in there, you know. It's a lightning globy thing. I don't know.
Fitness Boxing 4 Samus Edition is going to be in there. That's what we need. And an all AI generated advent calendar featuring Samus. It's just like if you want it to be the culmination of the Switch and the Switch experience, I need fucking AI generated Samus advent calendar, or you're not authentic to the Switch experience. I'm sorry. I don't make the rules. I just answer the question. Samus Aran Cat Veterinarian is going to have to be in this thing, or it's not truly an encapsulation of the Switch experience. All-Star Supermarket Simulator : vinyl vibes. Records, not other uses of vinyl. I don't understand. I don't understand what vinyl vibes has to do with goddamn shit. They just wanted to put some vaporwave looking imagery on there because there's 9 other fucking supermarket simulators that came out this week. Yeah, I think one, 2 things. One, that will ensure there's not a delay of Metroid Prime 4, because I can tell you right now, none of these games spent more than a week in their development cycle. So we can put as many of these as we want in there. 2, we can add more content to the game for effectively no cost, like not even a lot of cost, like none cost. And then bonus 3, it'd be really funny. It'd be really fucking funny. And I'd like to see people get mad about there being multiple pictures of Samus's feet in the marketing material for one of these games. Because it would, like, you think Federation Force caused people to howl. Holy fuck. I would have enough material for like 7 or 8 episode cold opens. It would be just perfect for me. Just exactly what I need, rather than Game Empire Tycoon : Dealer Simulator, which is a real game. I mean, real in the sense that it exists.
Sure.
Yeah. I want to be very clear. Not real. I'm not vouching for its quality as an actual video game. I am simply noting that it is a real combination of words on the eShop, and nothing can be the culmination of Switch without that kind of devotion to almost certainly AI generated text strings. Also, the main character on it looks like the character from Dead Rising 2, so I'm pretty sure that image is also AI generated. They probably were like, hero, supermarket, enemies, and they're like, Dead Rising 2 source material. I don't know. It's dumb. It's so blatant, like, oh my god. I can't believe this is a real air quotes product. Available now for $1.99 or 50 cents more than I paid for Kill la Kill.
Wow. So there's buzz around Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Apparently, it might be a better game than we thought. But like so it's going to be some sort of combination of adventure and immersive sim, and like people were talking about Metroid Prime, like oh, okay, like you're kind of doing archaeology here, like you're scanning stuff, you're piecing together what happened here through like the stuff that you read, the lore, etc. And so I feel like Nintendo has to strike back, and has to implement maybe more kind of archaeology stuff. And so I think this would be a good moment to implement some sort of like weighing a bag of sand puzzles through the HD Rumble.
HD Rumble, yeah. The ice cubes, as was displayed prominently in the Switchmas thing.
Right. So like there's some sort of contraption in front of you, and like you're trying to make it work somehow. Like I don't know what I'm saying. Like not lockpick it, but like you're there's something like that requires precision tuning or whatever. And so like you can't make it grind too much. So like the vibration is going to be your feedback here. And if you do it wrong, well, you're going to destroy a priceless Zeeb's antique. I don't know. I kind of forgot which game I was talking about for a second there.
Well, again, we don't know what planet she's going to be on.
God forbid someone in the Metroid universe not respect property or history or artifacts. Like, it would be a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like all these things would be good. I feel like a nice like
well, the thing about it is that we kind of got the obvious thing of like, yeah, it starts out wacky because the Switch did start out more wacky, gimmicky, right? So it's like, oh yeah, Samus is going to spend the first part of the game milking a cow and showing the cannon to her teeth or whatever, and then she's going to be punching out dudes for a while with extendo arms, just
there we go,
not using the gun on her arm for a while and all that, but and then it's like, okay, it's going to get more ordinary as it goes on. How do you encapsulate Animal Crossing and the pandemic part in this game? How do we have the middle of the game where it's just like incredibly successful, but also you're kind of trapped?
That's a tough question, short of what would basically be described as biological terrorism, which I'm not above, as long as it gets us, non-lethal biological money earning opportunities. We're going to call it investments in healthcare. I understand the inversion of that title. We just call that right speak here in the video game development department. I mean, yeah, it almost has to. What if Samus is just added as like the Sanrio cards?
I'm thinking it could maybe a protracted version of like the Eventide thing in Breath of the Wild. You know, you're kind of trapped on an island for ages, and it's like it's fine. Like it's good. Like you've just like getting lots of some sort of in-game currency, and there's no real enemies, no real threat or all that. But it's like, oh god, you know, I'm raking it in, but at some point you're gonna have to get back out there and actually get back on the horse and do the main quest again.
Have we ever seen any evidence that Samus actually gets paid? Like, we know Star Fox gets paid because at the end of N64.
Yes, the billing with Pepper, incredulous to how much money it costs. Yeah,
I don't know if there's. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen anything, but then again, you know, I haven't played every single Metroid game.
How many bounties, you know, she actually brought in? This is the question, isn't it?
And I don't know.
They do seem to get away.
It's something where I could see maybe it being referred to offhand in like one of the lesser games in the series, but yeah, as part of the main line, I haven't seen it. There's nothing.
We don't even get it's expensive, but it's worth it. I like that that Pepper has to justify the fact that he didn't allow his entire civilization to be wiped out by a giant floating brain.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, I mean, it's a lot, but it was worth it, I guess. Maybe you should just have a functioning military, Pepper. You already have one. Just make them actually do shit. Rather than just be Bill shows up and saves the goddamn day. Maybe you wouldn't have to pay Star Fox all your fucking money. Stupid ass dog. That's it. That's what we need. This is the era of investors running the show. Maybe it's time, and investors certainly leaning in on Nintendo after their success. Maybe Samus just has to find the greenbacks. That's all it is. It's about mergers and acquisitions on the Samus front. Samus is a very intense negotiator is my recommendation here.
You could also have a portion where she has to go back to Talon 4 to represent the bit where Metroid Prime Remastered came out.
Oh god. Have we ever considered the possibility of Space Pirate Crypto?
It seems like if from their various like journal entries where it's like they are quite sort of enterprising but completely amoral and like also just willing to try anything even if it is going to cause them a lot of harm before even it causes anybody else harm. What if we injected seems like the kind of thing they'd be into.
What if we injected a Metroid with Phazon? What's Phazon do? We don't know! Oh, it's a terrible idea. What have we done?
It's like, yeah, the stupid shit where it's like, oh yeah, we're trying to copy the Morphborn that's just like completely crumpled some of our warriors into, you know, horribly deformed things just bounced over and can't walk anymore or whatever. It's just like, yeah, they seem like the kind of people who will try anything.
Maybe just don't put tubes in your bases anymore. Like maybe that problem solved. So like, what if, I mean, we're here for the culmination. I mean, that's gotta be part of the experience. Samus meme stocks. What if the, Samus just slowly drifts? Not because of inputs.
Yeah, again, especially like early on, isn't it? You know, like it was definitely those early Joy-Con were worse for that. So that's going to be in that phase where she's, you know, fighting with extendo arms and maybe even, you know, extended a bit into like the cardboard phase.
Yeah, I guess you could have her ship get an OLED upgrade. You know,
nice.
Yes. Yeah. The visor just starts looking a lot better or something, and through the visor view.
A version of her ship that can't land. It can only be in orbit. Perfect. I don't know. The cardboard still entices me with, oh no, it's Game Builder Garage Metroid Edition, where somebody's gonna finally fucking finish Metroid Prime 4. Guess what? It's you! You at home!
It goes WarioWare DIY on us at the very last.
We can't finish it either. It's your problem now, gamers. Anybody else? Or make your own Samus the end of the road?
I think that's the end
I
of the road.
suppose so, yeah. It usually is, isn't it? Just do it yourself. That's pretty much when you've reached a point. And again, like I said, the thing about going back to Talon 4 to just revisit the first game, I mean, that is the end of the Switch experience. It's just, more ports to vamp until we get to the next system. Not just Metroid Prime remastered, obviously, but all the other stuff. Xenoblade Chronicles X coming back, which probably was the closest thing that felt like a good culmination of Wii U stuff, I would say,
in a positive way. Yeah,
because obviously it didn't have its Wii U features gutted from it, like its kind of successor Breath of the Wild did. But yeah, that coming back and all the other stuff. There's been Luigi's Mansion 2 and Donkey Kong Country returns again, as it has not been appended that way, but it could have been. So that is that's the problem. It's a little bit of a victim of its own success for like a really compelling kind of finale, because it's just they've had a nice kind of glide path to being able to plan what to do next for the new system.
Samus lands at a base and it's nothing but other docking stations and also a Donkey Kong theme park.
Yeah.
It's ports and DK theme parks. There it is. That's all she gets. That's the culmination of the Switch. Maybe some amiibo cards. Maybe if you behave yourself. All right. Next email. Who wants to read it?
I can read it.
Cool.
All right. Let's see. Cornwalster says, "Greetings, host James, guest host John, producer Greg, and special guest Guillaume. It
seems a bit wrong to me. Guillaume should be producer.
I do like that John's a guest host.
Yeah,
he is.
He's
done the job.
Yep. In summer of 2025, a court order will require the RFN crew to sequester themselves to a remote mountain cabin for a week-long vacation. During this mandate, you guys will be expected to play local multiplayer games from various generations.
We're together? Shit! I was excited. Now I'm mad.
Let's say 9 hours per day with breaks so you can find food. So, what games could you agree to enjoy, and what game would destroy the show entirely? As a bonus question, what outdoor activities would you enjoy in your downtime? Thanks, guys. Here's 25 more great episodes. 25.
I like the far more achievable goal than the other ones we've been getting.
Yeah, and it leaves it open-ended how many years we've got to reach that many.
Well, I assume we went 25 because that was around when the expectation of our imprisonment was going to kick in.
Yeah, and then after that it's over because we've all killed each other.
Probably. Smash Brothers and Smash Brothers is the answer to both
that's the answer to both, isn't it? Yeah, it's just like, I love Smash Brothers, so it's always something you feel like that can't go wrong, right? It's
No, I can tell you definitively it can, and we have.
I've been playing that series for 25 years. It couldn't possibly be a bad thing. And then, have to... I mean, I guess you would have to have, like, Smash Brothers 4... Wii U or 3DS for you to inflict the 100-minute coin battle on us. Right, because coin battle is not in Ultimate, if I'm correctly remembering that.
You're right. It is a grave omission.
Yeah, they said everyone is here. They didn't say everything is here, and that's why. Because the grievous omission of the coin battles.
Sucker, I saw somebody played a 100-minute coin battle? What the fuck? That's got to come out of this game. Jesus Christ.
First of all, important I will have to remember both my copies of Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium. That is, any time you're going to be sequestered somewhere, you got to do. It's the only way you're going to survive something like that. But
go ahead.
No, I mean, Smash Brothers indispensable for good or ill. We have to have that. That's an easy one. I guess the next thing people are going to wonder about is a Mario Party. I mean, I've never owned one, so I'm not the expert here. Is there one that would like actually maybe work, and then another one that would definitely get us to strangle each other?
I don't know. I thought they were all designed that way, so that...
Yeah, I guess so, but there must be some that are a little shade more one side than the other, right? I'm guessing.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, people seem to think the new one's pretty good. I don't know. I I don't feel like we would play much more. Like the only time we've played Mario Party, we were obligated to. So like,
Right.
Yep.
I'm not sure. That
how do we know this court order isn't going to obligate us to? I mean, it's all nonsense, isn't it? I mean,
I mean that point, I feel like you have grounds for an appeal. Like, no, this is actually cruel and unusual.
Mm-hmm.
Like this motherfucker just won because he landed on the most green spaces. He had no play in that. Are you telling me that's not unusual? That's unusual.
If we're going to play some sort of board game, may I suggest Fortune Street? Like, if we're obligated to play 9 hours per day, like, we're going to want something that takes a while to get through. And, yeah, Fortune Street is, from what I remember, the little I managed to play, like, it was pretty decent. So, some better version of Monopoly with, Mario and Dragon Quest characters.
So, question on the kill each other part. Does that apply if it's self-inflicted? Because if so, there's Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, where we might just off ourselves to no longer have to play it.
Dark.
I mean, there is the famous clip of Dom losing his happiness, the game's words, and losing the game on like the last turn.
Never experience joy again.
It's like
harsh,
what?
But
I mean, you did buy Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, like you did is self-inflicted. I feel like
the
there's
culmination of we.
There we go. I feel like there's
Ultra Smash. You know,
God, you might be right.
How many times could we see all the content in Ultra Smash if we played it for 9 hours a day every day for a summer?
I would say at least twice a day. So a lot is the answer to that question. Many times. I feel like, though, if we were to take a step back, like generationally, and look at some of the older stuff, I mean, there is the, and I'm blanking on the name of the game now, the party game that makes everybody hate everyone else.
Dokapon
Kingdom.
Dokapon.
Yeah. That's not even enough time to finish Dokapon Kingdom. That game takes for fucking ever.
right.
Like, that's part of the reason it creates so much enmity, though, is that it just goes forever. So, like, even if it's all fun and games, after a while, it's not fun anymore. And it's just like, I need to get out of this death spiral, and you're holding me back. Every other player is holding me back from escaping this experience, which makes you inherently my enemy. And it just becomes more personal at that point. I do wonder, what beyond Switch games, so if we go back generationally.
Yeah, we did mention that, yeah.
I mean, like, Perfect Dark would be a pretty good example of a game that
I love Perfect Dark multiplayer as a kid. I spent a lot of the summer of 2000 playing that game.
Now, are we playing with a good frame rate, or are we playing on the N64?
No, we got to play on the N64.
Oh, yeah.
This is
definitely.
punishment. We are being punished, remember. But the
seldom are court orders to reward people for how wonderful they are, I suppose.
The pain would be if we just loaded in a bunch of Dark Sims against us. Yeah. I fear them. I hate them. And even to this day, I still don't think I could deal with more than 2 of them. 2 is my limit. 2 is the only time, as many as I could spawn in the map against myself and still win. Once it hit 3, it was just a cavalcade of death.
See, this is what I'm thinking. I remember we used to do a thing where we would because you could order the Sims about if you were in a team scenario, and so we'd summon a Sim and put a bunch of remote mines on him, and then tell him to attack the other, the other team, and then just remote detonate him, and it would come up, killed normal Sim, killed hard Sim, or whatever. So yeah, it's that concept, except we keep singling somebody out to be the person that has to take the mines. That would get us to kill each other pretty quickly, I would have thought.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if we give Guillaume, what was the name of the game from that a lot of the same people?
Time Splitters?
Yeah, if we give Guillaume Time Splitters 2, he might style on us, so that might do it too.
Yeah, but it's been a while, and the controls are weird in that game. I tried to play on the Xbox, like I tried to download and play that version.
When they do back compat, yeah.
It's I don't know. Like I think I've lost my skills finally.
I know what you mean. Like it's just like you kind of underestimate how much it's just there's been more of a kind of harmonization of first person shooter controls.
Yeah,
and you forget that it wasn't that close to that, even though it was like in the dual stick kind of era. It wasn't there at that time.
Yeah, and we would have the same trouble with Perfect Dark, really, except that we're playing on the A64. Yeah, I think
we've got N64 controllers. We're letting the auto aim do a lot of the work.
Oh yeah,
good point.
It's not a local multiplayer game. Like, I guess you could set up 2 TVs. One game that did make me want to throttle another RFN cast member was Crackdown. Trying to climb a tower with Dr. Metz, him getting taken out while we're stuck on a stairwell halfway up this tower. So I just have to hang out waiting for him to come back behind a flower vase, mind, because that game is all about shooting. And I'm just like trying to keep myself alive. And suddenly I'm dead. And in the replay, I realize it's because Johnny has taken a car and has driven it up the stairwell in the tower somehow and has run me over. After I held my ground for like 5 minutes waiting for him to come back.
Hey, if you've seen the end of Action Jackson, you've seen a car drive up a stairs.
I've been under a car up a stairs apparently. So, that was like, I cannot believe you made me hold my ground for 5 minutes to run me over with a goddamn car inside on the stairs on like the 5th floor. Why?
I was thinking, like, I mean, I guess this is a multiplayer game technically, but it's not the multiplayer part that drives people mad. It's just like someone's trying to get the absolute best ranking or score on like Donkey Konga 2's cover of You Losing My Religion or whatever. I mean, come on. It's not, it's just someone's going to just rip the DK bongos out of the machine and possibly beat the person to death.
And that's when they open up the closet and there's an entire like closet full of more bongos.
Yeah, they couldn't move them fast enough, could they? They had way too many bongos.
No!
May I interest you guys in a game of Super Spike V-Ball on the NES? Like, let's go really back.
Sure.
Catchy music and decent enough sports game.
Well, if they were really evil, the Court Order, if it was it would be like, do you only get to escape your sequester if you successfully cooperate, isn't it? I mean, that's what it'd be like affordable space adventures, like actually get good at it, dickheads. Otherwise,
so
you never
Saw? It's just Saw with shitty video games. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm just getting whiplash a little bit from the question because it's a court order that's sending us on a vacation.
Quote unquote. That should probably be in quotes, shouldn't it?
Yeah, we're sending you on a vacation upstate.
Yeah.
I know. How does that sound? To a cabin, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
I see.
My outdoor, depending on how things are going, my outdoor activities might be looking for flint that I can flint map to finish off everybody else in the cabin. It's like
the outdoor activities are doing the old Shawshank Redemption, getting rid of the however much wall you tunneled through the night before underneath the poster.
There you go. Why is James collecting shiny rocks? Don't worry about it. Everything's fine over here.
It's a chess set. I'm making a chess set.
It's fine. Who's got a nice big round rock? I need one of those, please. Something I can hold in my hand. God, it's weird. Like, there should be a lot of multiplayer options, but like, it's something special about a game that like builds enmity. Like, as a mechanic, that exposure to it breeds contempt.
Well, I mean, one interesting one, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, you can't really go to U because we haven't got a 5th person for boost mode for the complete You know, you could do 3 on boost mode, obviously, but still, it's not quite the 4-person jumping on their heads and, you know, putting them in a pit and all that kind of stuff. Like, I think I've played a little bit of New Super Mario Bros. Way back in the day with a 2nd-person, but never even, not close to the full chaos factor of the 4 people. So, and again, you see with how they kind of approach things with Wonder that they've kind of, they've left that behind, basically. You know, it's just, yeah, maybe that was a bit too hard to manage, you know, and maybe a bit too quick to create. It's a line that they like to walk all the way back to like the arcade Mario Brothers, right? It's kind of cooperative, but kind of competitive at the same time. And you've had aspects in like 4 Swords that are like that, or, you know, with Zelda and so forth. So it's always been kind of there, but it feels like maybe they felt these kind of adjustments that came in with Wonder, maybe they thought it went a bit too far with the new Super Mario Brothers multiplayer games.
It's the other game we'll be playing is the local multiplayer content of Metroid Prime 4. Because even number of Metroid Prime games get unnecessary first-person shooter. Yeah,
Metroid 2 had multiplayer mode, which I pretty much never touched.
I played it a little bit. It's unnecessary.
Well, I mean, that seems pretty much true on its face, yeah, which is probably why I didn't end up actually bothering with it.
It is more materially unnecessary as you plummet its depths. Let's put it that way.
So it was no blast ball, you're saying?
No, it was no blast ball. That I can definitively say that. I mean, 4 Swords Adventures can be an absolute dick. The GameCube one,
yeah,
where it's just like I'm just not going to help. So I would appreciate your help. It takes 4 people to move this block.
We're coming back to that challenge aspect of it again. If it's based around our ability to end our summer vacation, is predicated on our ability to cooperate. That'd be another one that could be difficult.
I honestly feel like our best chance of completing that is to strangle one person of the cast and then make it a 3-person with the AI, just as an example to everyone else. Look, cooperate or this is the outcome. Because there's so much you can just choose to not participate, and then your team is stuck. Because the game will adapt based on how many players you have, but if you just don't.
But then the court order has already anticipated that this is what they're going to do, so they tell us, if you kill somebody, then you're forced to play Triforce Heroes with the remaining 3 people, and you are gagged, so you can't communicate verbally, and are resorting to the pom-poms even if you're in the same room.
God. When we get down to the 2-person and it's Biforce Warriors, like, what are we doing with at that point? Is it just staring each other directly in the eyes and trying to communicate through ESP?
I'm trying to think about the content of Biforce Warriors. It could be quite interesting.
But Guillaume, there's your episode title name, by the way. We're good. We did it. I'm not sure I want to think too hard about the content of Biforce Warriors. I mean, a Warriors game trying to play 4-player would make you want to hurt someone, because it can't handle 1 person. Mm-hmm. What's that going to do? What's Punch Out Warriors going to do when there's 4 people killing Glass Joes? It's not going to work. That's for damn sure. It will smoke and it will cease to function. Maybe in that order, maybe in the opposite. Who could say? All right, what activities are we going to do to escape the confines of our cabin, besides try to craft tools for either escape or murder? I feel like I would just want to experience silence, like to the best of my ability to perceive it.
You don't want to hear the DK bongos anymore, so just silence.
Nature, yeah. James, is that what you're saying?
Hour 7 of the DK Bongo Marathon. John's been beaten to death with the bongos. Mm-hmm. Oh my god. Yeah, I think I would just need alone time. Or I would just crawl under the house, and and just screaming at anybody who came at me like the episode of Space Ghost Coast to Coast with Busta Rhymes, and they end up inside the air duct. That might be where I end up, just screaming at people from the shadows in a confined space who try to drag me out. This is my home now. Please leave me alone. John, how are you gonna enjoy the great outdoors of our honestly incredibly cruel and unusual imprisonment?
I'd probably go completely feral, start living in a lean-to. I think that'd be the first way.
The warden's going to show up and ask, "Where's Lindemann?" He's outside. He made a lean-to. Yeah, he doesn't know how to make a lean-to, though, so he's just getting rained on.
Yeah, he didn't even try to escape. He's actually just hiding under some ferns.
Oh, but just think about the sort of beautiful synchronicity of if, it's a test that's predicated on our ability to play New Super Mario Bros. Wii, but if you try and escape when you've got your outdoors time or whatever, you get brought back by the bubble from the prisoner.
Oh God. I guess alternate title for you that based on John's comment is Beneath Two Ferns. It's a podcast joke. Say. God, yeah. It's every time just the baby Mario screaming sound as you're dragged back to our fucking hellscape that is New Super Mario Brothers for our. I think to really get the worst New Super Mario Brothers experience, though, you need to play it with a member of the press that's not the video games press. That's just like somebody from Forbes who's never played games before. Because I can tell you that's the least fun I ever had playing a 2D Mario game. It's not close. It's not close.
It's called the run button, you fuckwit.
What do? You're in the bubble. She just explained it. Stop moving. Let me pop the bubble. Jesus Christ. And then immediately right back into the pit. It's like, oh, there goes another life. Remember, that game still had lives. So there's another one. Just down the pit. I'm not even going to pop that fucking bubble. No, you're on your own. I'm trying to think what would be another good, like, multiplayer. I mean, any of the Mario Kart games can probably generate some real, vitriol. Because I could absolutely see one of us just staying, they patched it out of multiplayer to a certain degree, but just like starting the race and blowing the start so you can get good items to start with. I'm still going to try that. I'm still going to try to get a blue shell so I can nuke whoever's about to finish the race. I don't care what happens to me.
I think another one of those things where the question of the two parts of it in terms of what was one that you could all agree to enjoy and which would destroy the show entirely. Obviously, they already had the Smash Brothers for both answer. You can also do the Mario Kart 8 for both because the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe to enjoy and then Mario Kart 8 Battle Mode.
Oh.
On Wii, it basically doesn't have it. It's, vague impersonation of the battle mode because we've just got to ship this thing.
No. God. They did fix that in the Mario Kart 8 for Switch, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. Like I said, that's why that would be the one that you could enjoy because that's got, if good God, it's got everything at this point.
Why doesn't it have Coin Battle? Come on. Bring back Coin Battle to some game. I don't even care which game.
I kind of feel like that has got some sort of coin mode, hasn't it? And that was one of the battles because they've got like Shine Thief and a few there's a few variants that are in that I presume some of them had made previous appearances. But I gotta say, it's been a while since I've played the battle. I played more just the racing online, but not the battling recently.
All right, well, 25 more episodes of this and then we're free. So, then we're going to jail. But that's fine. It's fine. Emails, rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. That's rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. Retroactive, get your comments in. Professor Layton, The Curious Village. It is available on mobile devices for $10, or you can find a copy of the DS game online. It is not that expensive, and play it on original hardware. We will be talking about this sometime during the holidays, probably recording it ahead and releasing it around the start of the new year. So go ahead and get your comments in. There's a comment thread in the Discord. I have not, if by the time this episode comes out and I have not created a talkback thread, for it, I will be sure to do so. I plan to do that the next day or so. So it should be there before this episode comes out. Is there anything else we want to plug? Or are we good? I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, well then the last thing we have to do is music. Greg, what is our music to cover the screams as I beat John with another set of Donkey Kong conga drums?
Well, you just keep mentioning that. So
he's thought about it before, hasn't he? That's the unsettling part of it.
No, it was the Taiko Drum Master drums before, but those are expensive.
I'm just imagining you in the sort of transparent rain shawl like Patrick Bateman, and just go, "Hey, John," and then the Donkey Kong bongos come crashing down.
Just launch them across the room at it.
Chilling stuff. But we actually had an email in just before we started recording from AG with the notion of tying a music suggestion into the recent anniversary, 30th anniversary of the launch of the original PlayStation in Japan. But, there were some interesting ideas there. I'm not going to use them because I'd already thought of something to tie into the 30th anniversary of PlayStation that's actually, paradoxically, came out in 1993. And that's because it's Secret of Mana. Now, I think, isn't it in the localizations of the games in the series where they actually have voice acting, they say mana, don't they?
They do.
So, yeah, that is the official. It's just, I've heard Mana my whole life. So, certainly since we got to the podcast age, which is long enough at this point. But yeah, Secret Mana, shall we say. But of course, the thing about that game is that it was, designed, at least for much of its development, to be a launch game for the PlayStation when it was going to be the Super Nintendo CD add-on. That was a collaboration between Nintendo and Sony. And of course that didn't work out, and it led to Sony making their own console, still called the PlayStation. In the meantime, the Secret of Mana had to, kind of adapt to the fact that it wasn't going to be on a CD anymore. Certainly by, some of the things that you've seen written about it, it sounds like that was quite a heavy lift to salvage the game. Basically, a lot of stuff had to be cut and reworked, and I think, a certain amount of the kind of technical jankiness that exists in the game is kind of blamed on that, which obviously is beyond my ability to judge, but certainly sounds kind of logical enough that would have been the case. But certainly something that survived the transition very well is the soundtrack. I'm assuming it would have been quite different if they'd had the CD format to rely on in that area, not just, would they have had more space for, like levels and, cutscenes and all the other stuff, but, they could have had, some actual kind of music on there in the same vein as, that you had for things like the Turbo CD and the Sega CD at that time. And there's an interesting thing, actually, even something like Chrono Trigger, that came, a couple of years later, 3 years later, or so, no, 2 years later, where like that, if there's like a hype video, almost like a preview video for Chrono Trigger that I've seen a rip of on Jeremy Parish's YouTube channel from Japan, where you can actually hear like the high quality synth versions of the soundtrack before it got kind of converted into Super NES sample based versions. So I'm assuming that's the kind of thing that probably happened for Secret of Mana, right? It was just like they had, but they probably thought they could just use that and then have it on the CD. And then it's like, no, we're actually going to have to convert, to sort of take some, downsample some stuff and, work with that Sony sound chip that the Super Nintendo had, and they did a great job. Basically, I mean, it's one of the most memorable things about the game. Obviously, there's a lot of things about the Super Nintendo sound processor that were kind of impressive at first, but some of the early games end up having a bit of a kind of samey sound because they rely on a lot of the same samples that are just kind of the base set that's got like included in the hardware. But Square, kind of pretty quickly got to, having higher capacity cartridges with more custom samples, and you ended up having quite a distinct sound for a lot of their games, and this is definitely one of them. And the track I'm going to go with is Fear of the Heavens, which is the opening to the game, and it's very evocative for me of this time of year, because by the time I did not get it like super close to when it came out. It was quite a while later, but it was at Christmas, and I could just imagine flicking that Super Famicom for me, switch, or the power switch on, and that kind of whale song sound that opens it, and then into the piano, and it kind of builds, and as you get like a digitized version of the game's cover art and some text and all that. But I guess that part of it probably seems pretty quaint now, but I still think the music is a really cool, absorbing introduction to this particular kind of fantasy world and the journey that awaits. It's a really great kind of demo scene to start the game.
Cool. All right. Well, on that, it's time for us to go. Play Professor Layton, everybody. Bye.
Later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.